what we've done here is we've set out on a journey.
Okay.
And the journey is to help people to understand the basics of marketing, like the marketing mastery at the entry level. And so we brought Troy in to kick us off, and he talked about identifying your target market, identifying your target customer. And then we brought Lauren in, and she talked about how to understand what is a value proposition, how to understand yours, how to develop it. What are some templates you can kind of use to distill that, and questions you can ask about your business. Now, we have the distinct pleasure of bringing Pierre back on the show.
All right.
So happy to have you.
All right. So happy to be here.
Yes. So now we're going to talk about the next component in marketing, and that has to do with actually getting behavior to shift, shifting behavior in your prospect, in your potential client, and even in your current customers. So talk to us about that. How do we get, if we've identified the people that we want to sell to, like that's our folks,
Right.
and we understand what need we're filling, what unique value we're promising, how do we get them to actually change their behavior?
Okay. All right. It's probably one of the most difficult part of implementing a marketing strategy, right? Because you are basically going against a very natural force called inertia. What is that? If something is not moving, it takes something to make it move, right? If something is moving, it takes something to slow it down and make it stop. Same thing with behavior, okay? I'll take an example. I already have a bagel shop that I buy bagels from. Fairly happy with it. There's nothing wrong, right? The next bagel shop that comes in, identify me as a bagel buyer, also making a value proposition to the fact that theirs is organic, it supplies vitamin C, I mean, whatever, right? Just that's the value proposition. But you got to modify my behavior, which is to go to this specific other bagel shop. And I think that's something that is missing from a lot of marketing strategies, right? The assumption that somehow you weren't doing this before, or that short of doing it, something is going to happen. Like if I don't come to your store, nothing's going to happen to me,
Yep.
right? So you have to modify my behavior by offering me an incentive. In our world, the most common incentive has to do with money. You have to offer me something related to the price of what you're selling and how much money I'm spending. Okay, so marketing is usually taken to be, I see it all the time where you put together a marketing strategy, and when I look at your plan, your budget for it, right, I see a number, and I can usually tell if it's a number that was randomly picked, thrown in there as if, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't get you result, because part of what you need to do is to offer me a reason that's going to take me from the big old shop that I usually go to. It might be an opening day bargain, right? It might be free samples. It might be a coupon that has $1 value to it, right? You're trying to make me come in.
To simplify this, or just to make it so you don't have to feel like I have to come up with some sort of strategy, look around and see what's already working.
Absolutely.
Like there's a reason why in Sam's Club or these other like large stores, why there are free samples. You walk
Free
down the
samples.
aisle and they're there, and it's like, oh, that's actually pretty good. Yeah, okay, I'll get
It
that.
actually works.
And that's exactly,
it actually works.
It actually works.
Yeah, because what you want is for me to try it a first time, right? You want me to try it a first time.
That's the behavior we're changing.
Okay, you want to change it.
How do you get that first try?
It is so hard. It is very hard.
So we had talked about this before offline. We talked about like a restaurant. You open up a new restaurant. So, or, it could be whatever level. Maybe it's fast food. So how would a restaurant opening up, let's say around here in Farmingdale, we have the college, we have a bunch of other businesses around. There's some residential areas here too. How in the sea of other restaurants that are already up and that people have, just like you said, exactly with the bagel store
Sure.
example, how do you get people to try you that first time?
It depends on where you are, right? And let's say you're in a small strip mall, right, around here, like as you go by, right? Um, your job is to create. It could be an event. It could be on Thursdays, okay? Customer Appreciation Day, right? And you actually send me something, right? That has some value. Like even if you're not going to use a coupon, you don't just trash it because maybe, just
Right.
maybe, you might have an occasion to use it, right? But it's about me feeling that I'm getting. It sounds almost it sounds almost bad, right? But it's about people getting something for free. Free works, right? Or discounted to the point that, all right, if your price is $10, and I've never tasted your food, right? But you've convinced me through your advertising. Okay, you've done the mental part of it, right? I'm convinced. Yeah, this is a new place, and look, they have something good there. It's good value proposition, and blah blah blah. They're innovative and stuff like that, right? Your regular price is $10, okay, and on Thursdays you're gonna drop the price for new clients or old clients to $6, right? It tells me I'm getting something discounted.
Right.
And the calculation that goes through my mind, even if it's not stated, if it's not obvious, is, all right, if it's not good for $6, all right. Okay, it's not as if I paid full price, right? It's not as if I paid full price.
And that goes into, that actually has me think about a couple of different components about this, about messaging. Like, how do you message this this opportunity for people to come in? Because there are different messaging mechanisms that are more effective than others.
Sure.
So if you said 40% off of your first meal here,
Yeah.
is different than if you just went and you pay 60%. Like, pay 60% for your meal, or you get 40% off, which is more appealing to a customer.
Well, see, personally, I like the approach that puts a dollar amount to it.
And so, and again, that's another messaging strategy.
Yes.
Yep.
CVS does it, right? And they do it once you pay and you're a regular customer, they've tracked your behavior, right? And this is their way of introducing new things to you, right? Because you bought this, maybe you should try that, right? But as they print it, they're not saying 10%, 20% in a lot of cases, right? But they're saying $2. Right?
Yep.
This is a value that we all understand,
those
right?
are the big, bold, black letters that are on it
Exactly.
too. 100% right.
$2.
Yep.
I don't have to calculate percentages. I don't have to understand anything. This is a product that otherwise I would not pick up from the shelf.
Right.
But I have $2. Okay, so all right, so that's very, very transactional.
Right.
What you have to do to get people to try something new. Now, the part of this is that yes, you have to budget for it, but you must budget with an objective in mind.
Right.
Okay. You have to be able to say, and newspapers used to do it. They probably still do. If you place an ad, and you should know how many responses do you want to get out of this, and you monitor it because nobody has endless money, right? And you have choices. So you try things. Not everything is going to work for every type of business or every type of thing that you're selling. But if you pick 3 different methods with a way of tracking where your clients came from, then you could do a mix. You could change it. It's very hands-on, and I think most people take the marketing thing as if it's going to happen by itself,
Right.
Which it's not.
Yeah, you just pick a strategy.
Yeah.
You go with it, and because you picked, we talked about this very early on. I use the example of, like, okay, I was setting up the studio and I put the table in here, and then if Sarah comes in and she thinks in the back of her mind, and she brings up, like, wouldn't it make more sense if we kind of like shifted the angle a little bit, or why wouldn't we just move the cameras like this? Like we're losing so much space. If I don't view the operation through the eyes of like, this is an experiment. Everything we're doing is kind of an experiment in what works and what doesn't. If I don't see it that way, and I'm like, why put it there?
Yeah,
the camera placement's a part of me. You know, like how dare you challenge my camera placement?
It's all an experiment. You know, some people are motivated by buy one get one free, right? Some people aren't. Some people just want to buy this one thing to try it, give me a few dollars or a discount, and I'll take it home. If I like it, I come back again, right? But I'm sure the marketers experiment with this stuff. You know, they experiment with it. They see the result of one strategy versus the other, and they create a mix. At this point, I think once you get that person to try it once, though, okay, the big thing is to know that person. In terms of maybe they won't tell you, well, they should tell you their name. They should tell you their email address. Okay, now that you've known what they've bought, this is why everybody wants you. You can't go into a store without somebody wanting you to either download something by offering you value. I just told Stop and Shop everything they wanted to know about me, right? And it was simple. It was very, very simple. I walked up to the cash register. I had seen a sign that said this detergent, this washing detergent, right, was $9.99. Now, this thing is $21, right? But I saw the $9.99. Walked up to the cashier, gave the cashier the thing to ring, and he said $21.99 plus tax. I said, no, I just sold. I just sold $9.99.
Yep.
He said, well, do you have the electronic coupon? What are you talking about? You're supposed to download it. Okay.
Wow.
You download it.
Yeah.
You cut the coupon electronically.
Wow.
And then you present it, right? A pen in the neck, by all means, right? You don't do that. I'm going to download. But I did it.
Well, I mean, at that point,
that's the point.
Well, and it's an interesting, like, it's like you wonder, did the marketing team like lay that out as understand and expect that as a reasonable opportunity, or like what would happen? Like, would they see that people are going to see the price, they're going to grab it, they're going to go up,
a
and put it up there,
reasonable person,
and then
a reasonable person.
How many people are going to take it back to the shelf? Like, how many people are going to be like, I'm already at the checkout counter,
$10?
set it to the side.
But at this point, I need to do laundry, right? It's not as if I'm not going to buy. It's not something that I have a choice in buying.
Right.
I need to buy this thing, right?
Yeah.
So the only thing between me and buying this thing for $9.99 is for me, and there's Wi-Fi in the store. He says, you just download it, and I'll show you how to use it. Boom, 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 boom.
And you're signed up.
I'm signed up.
How many emails have you already gotten?
No, they don't even have to give you email, because once you do it once, okay, they want you to go online to the app to figure out what you want to buy. This way you can cut the coupons, right? Then they know what you're buying.
Yep.
It becomes very personal. Yep. Right? They can offer you stuff that they're not offering to the next guy. Okay.
And then you think about how much money, you go back to the marketing budget.
Yes.
You think about how much money that saves them on their marketing budget.
Of course.
Because now they're not going to be pitching you items that you have no interest in.
Absolutely.
You think about the amount of money it takes to invest to get somebody to make that first move.
Yes.
And so to get me to buy another suit jacket, right? That's going to cost a certain amount of money. And then the amount of money that it would take for me to buy a sewing machine is going to cost a certain amount of money. Those dollar amounts are very different. Because for me, a sewing machine is going to be a very expensive, heavily overweight paperweight, right? That's never going to get used. And so in order for me to get there, you're going to have to invest a lot into that in order to make that happen. Way too much that makes it worth your while.
Yes.
Another component about this, when you think about like outside of discounts to get people to change their action, I like the idea of social proof. Right. And so when if I come into the office and I see that Sarah's got these cookies, and then I see that you're in there and you're having the cookies, and then I look in and I see Troy's office and he's eating the same cookies, I'm like,
Of course, of course.
What's going on with these cookies?
Of course.
What are we doing right
Of
now?
course. Well, that's why they pay influencers on social media, to say I use it, right? Or advertisers and people who probably never use the product, but they have social standing, and if they're using it, that softens the difficulty of actually getting to buy it yourself. That's the whole purpose.
Yep.
But at that point, the problem becomes the starter, right? The starter who doesn't have this critical mass of people who've already made the decision that are going to influence others by their presence in their social whatever, right? And the time it takes to get there, right? It's a steep climb.
You have to find people in the community. I've read about this and I've seen people do it in very small scales, and it's a form of trickery, but at the same time, I see things as being ethical if you're delivering value that you promised. If somebody came in through a way that was, I don't know, maybe somewhat deceptive, it's like, but if you're still delivering on the value that you promised, it's ethical, I think.
It mitigates it a bit, right? Yeah.
So like the idea of bringing people in, like I know it's, so if we boil it down to its most simple essence, it's the tip jar at the barista's counter for Starbucks that the barista themselves are putting money into.
The starter
right,
dollar,
the starter,
right?
to show that it's already happening.
Yeah.
I know people that have used plants, not like growing from the earth.
No, I know.
But like selecting people
Sure.
At like a vendor event.
Yeah.
They'll be out there with their tent and they'll have plants come in, these people that they have already talked with and that they're going to come through. Mostly they're like friends. And like, hey, can you come by and come over and like, if you can get like 3 or 4 or 5 friends to come over to your table, and then you create this like the sense of what's going on over there.
Yeah.
So like, it's not a pure, honest social proof, but you're tapping into social proof to get people to come over. But at the same time, it's not like you're forcing a sale.
No.
You're creating a sense of intrigue that gets people interested. Like, oh, what's going on? Oh, you're selling like these oils, or you have this homemade nut butter or whatever. Like, I actually really like nut butter. I'm really glad I came over. And it ends up being to their benefit anyway.
Sure.
And so to that extent, just to get people thinking creatively, you can look at this as like, this is part of your marketing budget. If you're going to do giveaways of food, a lot of times people won't associate that, like that's not the same pool of funds from your like operational expenses. This is marketing. And you could do like these campaigns, these public campaigns. I know Instagram, and you guys can probably speak to this better than we can. There are more restaurants now that are becoming more popular and that people are finding out about because of social media, because of Instagram. And they could do these competitions.
Sure.
Right? Like I'll give away 100 burgers for free.
Yeah.
100 Burger Monday.
Absolutely.
Like,
somebody has to pay for those burgers.
Exactly.
Course, right?
And then like what pot of money is it coming from?
Yeah, that's your marketing budget.
Exactly.
This is why if you're doing a plan or if you're doing a regular budget for your yearly budget or whatever budget, right? If you're making assumptions about customer acquisition, right? Just go straight to the marketing line. Just see, does this make sense, right? You're going from 0 client the first day to 100 clients by the end of the month, and then I look at the budget for your marketing and nobody's paying for this. Not likely to happen.
Yeah,
Not
because
likely to
any
happen.
action that you take is going to be backed up by dollars and cents.
It's all dollars and cents.
Yeah.
It's all dollars and cents. So, I mean, you could see it, right? I mean, this is why those public companies, for example, or companies where you have investors, and they're going to invest money without you necessarily producing something immediately, right? A lot of the budget goes towards changing people's behavior. It's not even a discount necessarily, but it's about changing people's perception of the product, of the service, right? That doesn't immediately even bring you money. But they throw a lot of money into that because they know that you are already doing something else. Everybody's doing something else. If they don't buy your product, they're not going to die. Not necessarily, not unless you are into the kind of field where you're saving lives.
Yeah. Yeah, it goes into like a kind of a branding and positioning perspective on it. Because if you see, I mean, they did experiments on this with wine bottles, with wine and wine tasting, and they've removed the labels from all the bottles, and then they put little signs in front of each one of them that simply said how much it cost. Like, how much does the wine cost? And then they had people taste it, and consistently across the board, no, my mistake. They had the labels on them. They had the labels on the wine bottles, but they gave the price. But they switched the actual wine in the bottle. So the cheap wine was in the expensive bottle wine and all of this. So the branding matched the number that they saw, and then they tried it, and they're like, yeah, this one, this Cabernet Sauvignon is my favorite, and it's so good, and I loved it. And then they find out in the end, they're like, yeah, no, we switched them. And
well, by then, if they're not, I mean, we're all told, right, that there is that price makes a difference, right?
Right.
Okay.
It's a perception.
You remove the price, then you equalizing the field, right?
Right. And it's like, but it's how you position your product or your service. If I'm a consultant, or if I provide like a cleaning service, and let's say this kind of standard, you go, the average for this zip code in which I'm providing services is 250 for, I don't know, like 700 square feet. And I'll clean this space for you. And you come in, you're like, mine's $900. You're like, whoa, like, how do you come into the market like that? And it's like, well, look at what they offer. Like, they're going to be positioning themselves differently and so much more.
It's the luxury cleaning.
Exactly. Like, this is the deluxe.
Exactly.
Do you want your windows to be smudge free for 6 months? We have the special sauce.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So, but it's that kind of thing. It's how you position it.
Of
you know,
course,
like,
of
you don't
course.
have to always come in undercutting.
Oh, not at all. Not
Right.
at all. Not at all.
Yeah,
Not
and
at
so
all.
sometimes coming in high is what.
No, you're making an argument for yours to be so much better,
Right.
right? And hence pricing, right? You know, if it costs you $1, you can't sell it for 99 cents, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the bottom, right, of your pricing strategy, right?
Yeah.
You also know where the other guy is selling it as, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other, on average, is being sold for $3. So you know that $3 would put you right in the middle of the market, and that's that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you may want to sell it for $5. Just completely go over the market, but then you have to have an argument.
Right.
And the argument is made by the wrappings, it's made by the advertisement, it's made by the endorsements and everything else. And the
setting.
social pressure to buy it.
Yes.
Right? Because,
Yes.
great people carry this bag.
Right.
Well, you want to be great.
Yeah.
So
I want to
you
be
pay
in that group.
So you pay $5.
Yeah. You look at the simple comparison of Android versus iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, how much more money am I going to spend on an iPhone? But then there's so many different components of it that you get to be a part of. Now I'm an Apple user.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm one of the cool kids, and now I don't have a green text bubble.
Absolutely.
But all of it works. Like, I'm not even talking down any of it. It's all so effective.
It totally works.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
It's brilliant minds behind advertising and marketing and positioning, branding. This is why they also take off the label if they're going to sell it at TJ Maxx, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
That's
you don't want
exactly
people
right.
to know that your product is.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Yeah.
What have you seen from your clients, or even your own experience, some unique or clever ways that people have gotten new clients, gotten people to change their behavior regarding, like, engaging with their company and their service and their product? Any sort of, like, outside of the box things that you've seen that have been pretty effective?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm not seeing, right? I'm not seeing enough people putting together a business plan with a line for a salesperson.
It's so scary.
No, this is not high tech. This is not,
Nope.
Doesn't require an MBA or nothing like that.
Right.
It's just that somebody's got to sell this thing.
Yep. Yeah, and in this world, what I've seen from my businesses and my professional colleagues, my fellow business owners that I spend time with, they lump selling, the ones that aren't doing great, they lump selling into marketing. Like, oh, well, I have these marketing campaigns, and it can serve, like, if you have like a funnel
and it'll work
built
by
out,
itself. It worked by itself.
And this is the frustrating part. It does, but to like 10 to 25% of effective as a mediocre sales team.
Yeah.
If you get a killer sales
Yeah.
team, then it's a different game.
You need
But you need people
salespeople.
out there actually communicating the message.
Yeah, you need people to sell your stuff, and
That can be scary
it,
though.
well, even
Like-
if it's a service, whether it's a service or you're selling actual products,
Mhm.
right? You need dedicated salespeople, because it's what people hate to do the most, right? You great business plan and you're the owner and you want to do everything else and stuff like that, but most likely you don't want to sell. Okay, so you can make yourself feel better by saying, okay, I'm going to be on social media, I'm going to have a nice website and stuff like that, right? You need sales.
You got to go out there and you got to communicate your message.
Somebody's got to
Yeah.
do it. And with all the rejections that come with selling,
Oh, yeah.
which is why we don't want to do it, right? We would rather do QuickBooks or something
Yep.
like that.
Yep.
But
Yeah, I did. I was in sales for 2 years, and it was for software. And one of the things that I learned it through going through courses about selling, and so I knew the numbers, but you don't know until you feel it. And it's they say it takes 7 times of getting in front of somebody to like get that sale. And we're not talking about for like a cheeseburger. I'm talking about for like
right, yeah,
like a
yeah.
legitimate sale, like thousands of dollars of software or whatever it is. And so in my case, it was tens of thousands of dollars for software for entire companies.
company.
And so I remember there was one person that I got in front of 10 times. No, maybe later. Sounds great. Good product. Now's not the time. We got to do this. And I just kept, and you develop rapport
Mm-hmm.
with this person. One, because they haven't blown you off with a whole
Exactly.
level of disrespect. And you're like, I actually like getting denied from you because it's way better than the others. But then the 11th time, they made the purchase.
Yeah.
And it's like there's a grit that has to come
Yeah.
with sales. And so and it's important to identify that in yourself, like where are your strengths and weaknesses, but at the same time, you can't disassociate yourself as the owner from any part of your business.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, I've hired.
Completely outsource.
You can't outsource your bookkeeping the same way that you can't outsource your sales. Like you can, but to your own detriment.
Yeah.
And because salespeople are communicating your message, they're delivering like the promise of your product and your value.
Absolutely.
And if they're not doing that to your standard, and if you don't have a mechanism to go check it, and even if you do have the mechanism to check, to like listen in on the phone calls when you hear this call is being recorded for quality assurance, if you're not actually going in and listening to
Yeah.
check the quality, you don't know what they're saying.
Yeah.
And then if you don't know what they're saying, you're like, why are sales down? It's like, oh, well, like when they're reading, they don't hit this part of the script. Like they never say this. Like, why aren't you saying that?
Yeah.
We developed this. Say it and let's see what happens.
Sales is the people who know how to do it. A lot of people make a living out of it, right? But it's
very lucrative.
Absolutely. They get it down to a science. Like you say, case in point, it's how they can tell you numbers, right? Mm-hmm. We sometimes wonder, why do people still send junk mail? Right? Is there anyone who doubts what happens to junk mail, right? We all do the same thing.
Mine doesn't make it up the driveway.
Okay.
Like literally, I'm at the bottom of the trash cans there,
Yeah.
mail's in my hand. I'm like, what's going in there?
Exactly.
All right, this is the only stuff that's even entering into the house.
Into the house, because this one gets discarded, okay? They know that too. But they also know that they're not just looking for you. They're okay with 999 people trashing it. They're fine with that. They've already figured it out. It goes into the trash can. But they're looking for that one that actually gets the message and acts up on it.
Right.
And it's okay with them.
Yeah. Well, and there's another component to it as well. Let's say I'm driving down the street with my wife and we're looking for a restaurant. We don't have a place in mind. We're like, I don't know, I'm kind of feeling sushi and maybe steak. I don't know. Well, say we're already on the road because we need to eat. And so we're looking. Every single restaurant that I drive by, I'm saying no to. I'm saying nope. But what's happening every time I drive down the street, I'm seeing that restaurant name. Like, oh man, there is that kebab joint, and I have seen it like 30 times over the last month because I drive by it every single day. And there can be that itch of novelty that you're seeking for something new. But it's that brand. It's the same reason that commercials work. It's not like you see a commercial about Advil and you're like, I'm going to go buy some Advil.
No one
It's
does
like,
that.
what happens when you go to the store to make that purchase?
Yeah.
I get things in the mail all the time for like replacing your windows. And you're like, I don't need to replace my windows. Like, this is such a nuanced, specific time that I'm going to need to replace windows.
Exactly.
I'm throwing this away 99.99999% of the time.
Until
I need windows. And who's the
Okay.
first person that comes up in mind when I see windows? It's that one that I
Yeah.
get like 3 times, 4 times a year. Every quarter, it's like, hey.
It's a numbers game, definitely.
Yeah. And you're making awareness. You're creating an association. And then it goes back to that, even the packaging, not even of your product, but of your marketing.
Yes.
So, like, what's the quality of it? I don't know if you've seen
they'll
these.
be fine. They'll be fine with the fact that you trashed it this time.
Yep.
But you usually have seen the name. They've delivered a message to you,
Oh, yeah.
right? It's not as if you didn't look at it, because
Yeah,
you may
exactly.
it's
Exactly.
not-
You have to determine that it's trash. But in determining it, you're seeing the brand, you're seeing the name, and you understand
yeah,
the.
and that's good.
Yeah.
That's for the pennies
Yeah. That's the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
They're creating brand awareness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Have you seen those letters where they're like handwritten?
Oh, all the time.
I got
All the
fooled by
time.
the first one I ever saw was years ago. And I
Yeah.
saw it and I was like,
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
I don't know you, John. Who are you? And why
But
are
John
you?
is a nice guy.
John
right?
the letter was tremendous.
Yes.
I felt like I was part of his family. And then I realized I don't know John. That's really good. This is actually a brilliant segue to break this down into like its simplest form, or the kind of a key takeaway for people that are listening right now, and they're considering, okay, I want to change the behavior. What's your last message for them?
You have to incentivize people to change behavior. Otherwise, they just don't change, right? And the most common incentive is financial. Even if it doesn't sound like a lot, although in the aggregate, in your budget, it will be a lot. $2 here, $2 there. But there's a psychological things about getting free things, right? I mean, that's a very powerful way of telling people, I want you to try my restaurant, or I want you to try my bagels or whatever, and I'm so confident you're going to like it. Here is a coupon with a big $2, fake $2 thing there. Come and get it. It's also a statement of confidence, right? You know your stuff is so good that you're going to incentivize people. The mental, intellectual conversation about your product is good. You can talk about the value of your product. You can talk about whatever you want to talk about. All I'm saying is that might not be enough to have someone change their behavior. Because think of it this way. They might be buying the same thing someplace else. Or if not, they're not buying it at all, well, they've lived their whole life not buying it. So you're asking them, it's a big ask, when you're in business. It's a big ask to tell people to come and try your stuff. As enthusiastic as you are about the quality of your product, everybody's going to love it and stuff like that. But you have to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. And just think about how many times you've passed this new restaurant that just opened with every intentions of sometimes going there. Okay. It's a year later until maybe they close or they shut down. And you didn't get pushed into it. People need that push. And unfortunately, or fortunately, financial incentives, as far as I can tell, is the best way to do it.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Pierre. I appreciate you.